This clinic was meant to heal minds, but something stayed inside. 3 stories from an abandoned asylum. Introduction. This clinic was meant to heal minds, but something stayed inside. Here are 3 stories from an abandoned asylum. I'm Riley Voss, filming this at dusk, April 8th, 2025, in my basement in Eugene, Oregon. A damp, low-ceilinged hole under my rented house, camera propped on a scarred table, its lens catching the flicker of a single bulb swaying above, shadows stretching, long and jagged across the concrete walls. I'm 27. A night stalker at a grocery chain, hands still smelling of cardboard and dust. But my real pull is the eerie, places where the air turns thick, where the past doesn't sleep, where voices linger in the cracks. Greystone Asylum's one of those places. New Jersey. A rotting brick sprawl shuttered in '73, once a beacon for broken minds, now a husk swallowed by vines and whispers. I've dug through its files, its rumors, its stains, and these stories clawed their way out. Tales of staff and patients caught by something that didn't leave when the lights went off. Picture this. Dark frame, a rusted door half open in a shadowed corridor, footsteps echoing slow, a faint hum threading through. Because what lingers in Greystone isn't gone, isn't quiet, isn't done. Story 1, The Faceless Patient. Basement's gloom presses in. I'm whispering to you. Voice low, a chill brushing my neck like a cold finger trailing down. Greystone Asylum, 1962. A hulking brick maze looming against a gray sky, its walls stained, with decades of rain and neglect. Barred windows staring blank over fields gone wild. A place built to mend shattered minds, but crumbling by then, its paint peeling, its halls echoing with the shuffle of slippers and the clank of keys. Staff, stretched thin, overworked, eyes hollow from too many nights. Nurse Evelyn Hart, 29, worked the night shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. A wiry woman with steady hands and a tight bun, used to the groans, the mutters, the sudden shrieks that bounced off Ward C. A wing of locked doors, stained cots, narrow windows, letting in slivers of moonlight, air sour with mildew, old sweat, and the faint tang of antiseptic that never quite scrubbed away the despair. She'd been there 2 years, long enough to know the creaks, the drafts, the way the wind moaned through cracked panes like a patient who'd forgotten how to speak. It hit her. 1:13 a.m. Mid-rounds. A sob, soft, wet, leaking from room 17, a cell empty since its last occupant, a catatonic girl named Mary, died in '59. Her chart still curling on the desk, ink faded to ghosts, her bed untouched, a thin mattress sagging under, dust and time. Evelyn paused, breath fogging in the cold, her flashlight cutting a shaky beam through the dark, boots scuffing the warped linoleum as she edged closer, heart tapping a little faster, a little harder. She pushed the door, hinges creaking slow, a sound like a low whine. Saw her, a figure on the cot, hunched, arms dangling limp. No face, just smooth blank skin where eyes, nose, mouth should have been. No features, no expression, just a void, sobbing low. A sound that clawed up Evelyn's spine, raw, endless, threading into her bones like wire, pulling her gaze, pinning her where she stood. She blinked, rubbed her eyes, hard, knuckles pressing, figure gone, cot bare, silence heavy as wet earth. But the crying didn't stop, shifted, burrowed into her head, loud, keening, ringing inside her skull. Her own voice but warped, pleading, "Help me," over and over, relentless. A wail she couldn't shake, couldn't mute. She stumbled back, flashlight clattering to the floor, beam spinning wild, ran to the nurse's station, hands trembling, breath short, told Dr. Klein, a gruff man with gray hair and a smoker's cough, who trudged to room 17, checked, found nothing, just dust. A cracked window whistling faint, the cot still sagging, untouched. He shrugged, called it nerves, But Evelyn quit weeks later, moved to a boarding house in Newark, thought she'd left it behind. She hadn't. The crying stayed, nights loud in her tiny room. Help me, weeping from her own throat when she tried to sleep, blank face flashing behind her lids, smooth and featureless, watching her from the dark. I'm whispering now. Camera. Close. Shadows pooling deep. Because an orderly, years later, found scratches in room 17. Evelyn carved deep into the wall, faceless marks circling it, jagged, fresh, like it claimed her, like it's still there, crying through someone, new, waiting for the next night shift to listen too long. Story 2. The Screaming Mirror. Basement's darker now. I'm pacing, voice tense, a faint buzz humming low, like something's waking up behind the walls. Greystone, 1958. Ward B, the treatment wing. A cold, tiled stretch slick with grime and old spills, flickering bulbs casting jagged shadows that danced across the floor. A place where minds were probed with needles, shocked with currents, stitched back together wrong. The air sharp with the smell of iodine and burnt hair. Walls, echoing with the hum of machines and the occasional scream cut short. Thomas Reed, 33, a patient, wiry, paranoid, locked in for hearing voices since '56, sat in the procedural room, a sterile box with a chipped sink, a hard chair, a wide mirror bolted to the wall, silvered glass fogged with age and scratches, reflecting his gaunt face, his twitching eyes, his hands knotted tight in his lap. He'd been there months, shuffling through days of pills and straps. But that afternoon, 3 p.m. therapy session, he broke, screamed, "It's calling me." Pointing at the mirror, voice raw, hands clawing his hair, tearing at the roots. Telling Dr. Ellis, a thin man with cold eyes and a clipboard, it shouted his name. Thomas, over and over. Loud, piercing. Not his voice. Something older, deeper, rattling the frame, shaking the room. A sound that burrowed into his skull and wouldn't let go. Dr. Ellis sighed, scribbled a note, stood before it, saw his own face, stern, worn, lines etched deep from years of this, heard nothing, just Thomas whimpering behind, rocking in the chair, but as he turned, it hit. Thomas. A shriek, sharp, not his patient's tone, booming from the mirror, shaking the glass, his reflection twisting, mouth gaping wide, screaming when he didn't, eyes blackening slow, hollowing out, a face that wasn't his anymore, a voice that punched his chest, sent his clipboard crashing, papers scattering like leaves. He stumbled, boots slipping, watched Thomas bolt, door slamming hard, frame rattling, then silence, thick, suffocating, until the mirror cracked, loud, sudden, splinters bursting across the room, glass dust settling slow, nothing left but a jagged frame and that echo, Thomas fading into the tiles, lingering in the air like a stain. I'm pacing faster, camera tracking, lights flickering faint, because Thomas vanished that night, gone from his cell, door still locked, bed untouched. But staff swore they heard Thomas from the walls, the pipes, the broken frame, days after, a whisper threading through the wing, a call that wouldn't die. Dr. Ellis retired, haunted, moved to a cabin upstate, told his wife he saw his own face scream in dreams, not his voice, calling Thomas back, calling him too, pulling, him under night after night, a reflection he couldn't unsee, a sound he couldn't silence. Story 3. The door that wasn't there. Basement's cold now, I'm near the wall, voice dropping, a faint echo bouncing back, like the room's listening. Greystone, 1970, basement level, a damp labyrinth of corridors twisting under the asylum, rusted pipes dripping steady, a forgotten pit where orderlies dumped trash, smoked in secret, swapped stories of the screams upstairs, air thick with mold, stale rot, and the sour bite of rust, walls slick with condensation that gleamed in the dark. Sam Carter, 41, A janitor with broad shoulders and a limp from a bad fall years back was sweeping down there, 2 a.m., flashlight bouncing off wet stone, his broom scraping a rhythm against the floor. A job he'd held 6 years, long enough to know every corner, every leak, every blueprint pinned in the maintenance shed. He saw it. A door, old, wooden, swollen with damp, no handle, tucked in a corner behind a stack of moldy crates. Not on any plan he'd traced with his calloused fingers. A slab of oak that didn't belong, that shouldn't have been there. Its edges warped, its grain dark with something like stains, something like blood long dried. He heard them. Voices, faint, overlapping. Sam, weaving through the damp air, calling soft, urgent, pulling him close, a chorus from beyond the wood, tugging his gut like a hook, promising something he couldn't name, something he didn't want to know but couldn't turn from. He pried it, crowbar cracking the frame, wood splintering loud. Opened it, saw a corridor, endless, stretching into black, walls pulsing faint like a heartbeat under the stone, voices louder. Sam, come. Echoing deep, not his crew, not anyone he knew, something alive in the dark, hungry, waiting. A sound that wrapped his chest, squeezed his breath. He froze, flashlight trembling, saw shapes, vague, shifting far down, hands brushing the air, beckoning, then slammed it, heart pounding, crowbar clattering. Ran to the stairs, boots slipping on wet steps. Told the night guard, a sleepy kid, named Pete with a paperback and a cigarette, who checked, found nothing, just brick where the door had been, solid, cold, no trace, no sound, like it had vanished into the asylum's bones. But Sam heard them, days later, voices in the walls. Sam whispering through the plaster, the pipes, the floors, louder at night, pulling him back, waking him sweating in his trailer 10 miles away. A rasp he couldn't shake, a call he couldn't outrun. He went down, weeks later, desperate, flashlight gripped tight, found the door again. Same spot, cracked it, saw the corridor stretch farther, voices screaming, Sam. Now, hands brushing his arm, cold, wet, yanking hard, before he slammed it shut. Breath ragged, legs weak, eyes burning with the dark he'd glimpsed. I'm near the wall, camera trembling, footsteps echoing, because Sam quit, moved west. But the voices followed. Sam, in his new walls, his car, his head, growing sharper, angrier. And that door, staff said, appeared again. 1971. Empty. Waiting, calling someone new. What stayed in Greystone calls still. Does it whisper your name from the dark, from a place you can't unfind?